From the Alvin and Rosalie Sarachek studio, PBS Kansas presents Positively Kansas.
On this episode of Positively Kansas, their history was erased, their identities lost to time. We join an emotional pilgrimage to Concordia as descendants of the orphan train fight to reclaim a stolen legacy and connect with a past they never knew. Plus, the Kansas sky comes alive. We'll take you inside one of nature's most breathtaking spectacles. And in a quiet rebellion against the digital age, we'll show you why a new generation is falling in love with the strategy, style, and friendship of a classic card game. A half hour of information and inspiration starts right now on Positively Kansas. For generations, their family history began with a question mark, a past erased, a story untold. But now, a pilgrimage to a small Kansas town brings the truth to light. As Chris Frank reports, descendants are piecing together a lost chapter of American history, one family at a time.
So your father, again, was 4.5 when he came? 3.5?
Between 3 and 4.
Okay.
Kathy Burns, Sue Broadbooks, and Kay Harris, all the descendants of orphan train riders, are talking family history amongst themselves as they prepare to enter the Orphan Train Complex Museum.
This is our 22nd annual celebration of orphan train riders.
Every year, the National Orphan Train Complex celebrates the orphans who rode those trains nearly a century or more ago. The Orphan Train Riders Museum has been a part of Concordia since 2002, but this complex didn't open until 2007.
We used to call it a reunion early on because there were still orphan train riders who were alive and were able to travel and come and share their stories. And most all of them have passed.
Most have passed, Phillips says, because the last orphan train left New York City in 1929, which means the riders would have been born before then.
But we have descendants who like to come now, so we call it a celebration. And they share the story of their riders. And it's a way for them to have validation on their history. They don't sometimes know a lot about their history. They don't know why their rider became an orphan train rider. They don't know what happened to their birth family. Sometimes they don't even know the names of the birth family.
They weren't called orphan trains at first. That name came later and stuck. Early on, they were sometimes known as mercy trains. They emerged in response to a growing crisis, an epidemic of poverty, overcrowding, and orphan children in cities like New York and Boston.
Well, back about in the 1850s, New York was growing tremendously. There was a great deal of immigration.
Unbridled immigration in the early and mid-1800s quickly overwhelmed cities.
And so millions of people were coming. They were mostly all landing in New York, and of course quickly overcame the infrastructure. No housing, no jobs, no food.
And those conditions led to disease.
Tuberculosis was rampant.
With so many families falling apart, many children wound up sleeping in the streets and alleys.
The boys especially were forming gangs to protect each other. So they would pick pockets, they would steal from the vendors. If they could find a way to make a living, such as selling newspapers.
Charles Loring Brace, a young seminary student, saw the crisis while studying in New York. He was moved by the suffering of thousands of abandoned children on the streets. That led him to help form the Children's Aid Society, which launched the orphan train movement. Brace established industrial schools to teach and train children to give them life skills. He opened orphanages to shelter the children, but there were never enough beds to house the thousands of orphans living on the streets.
As soon as they were built, they were overflowing. And so they were addressing the need, but they certainly were not taking care of the entire problem.
Minister Brace had the idea to remove the children from the city and send them to farm families in the Midwest. He believed they would have a healthier, more stable upbringing there. The first train left New York in 1854 to Michigan.
So then they would put up handbills, they would put advertisements in the newspapers.
Newspaper ads like this one for the Lyons, Kansas Daily News simply announced homeless children from the East will arrive in Lyons Friday, January 19th, 1912. This ad announcing a train of homeless children coming to McPherson, saying Protestant children will be placed in Protestant homes and Catholic children in Catholic homes.
Kansas was one of the top 10 states that got children.
Why is that?
Because we got the railroad earlier than the West Coast, so we got more than the western states did.
She says Kansas also got more orphans sent here on the trains than many other states because of the state's rural farm setting.
There were over 7,000 just from the Children's Aid Society alone. The New York Foundling Home sent several thousand. And then there were other organizations that also sent children here. And they were smaller. So we figured 12,000.
Kansas newspaper editors didn't always sound a welcoming tune of the orphan trains coming here. This July 31st, 1897 Topeka State Journal's headline says, "An ash heap, Kansas is made one for the dumping of waifs which New York won't take care of," stating a batch of these New York boys to be unloaded on unsuspecting Kansas greenhorns. The Marion Record of March 23, 1911 was more positive, saying Children's Aid Society places a number of fine children in Marion County homes. And this from the Council Grove Republican newspaper of July 9, 1897. A company of boys, 10 to 16 years of age, from the Farm School of the Children's Aid Society of New York will arrive in Council Grove Friday, July 23rd. To find homes among the citizens of Morris County. These children are mostly orphans who have been thrown upon the world and the society, which is supported by charitable contributions, asks the citizens of this community to aid in finding them homes where they may be properly trained and educated so that they may become useful citizens. Minister Brace believed the children had a better chance at life in these Midwest rural settings.
They liked the smaller communities because that way the people that were on their local committees, they knew more people, and they could watch out for these children after the agent had left. And when it was a bigger community, they lost the kids. They couldn't keep track of them. So they liked these smaller Kansas rural communities.
And that brings us back to Sisters Sue Broadbooks and Kathy Burns, both of Des Moines, Iowa. They are here hoping to learn more about their grandfather, who rode the train from New York City to Iowa, and to learn about their great-grandmother, who gave up her baby.
Women faced so much poverty and discrimination in New York in the 1800s that when Sue and I think about our grandmother bringing our great-grandmother bringing our grandfather to relinquish him to the New York Foundling Home when he was 3.5 months old. And you have to think he was old enough that she had to have tried and hoped she could keep him. But we don't really know.
And that not knowing keeps them coming to Concordia to see if there are things they can find out that will bring them to a better understanding about their orphan train riding grandfather.
The more people we meet, the more we learn that these people were, the ones who did survive were the ultimate survivors.
Their grandfather was dropped off at the New York Foundling Home, which later also included a pediatric hospital. It was established in 1869 by the Sisters of Charity. The Foundling Home focused on protecting and placing Catholic children in Catholic homes across the country. A desperate mother giving up her son with this note, "Take care of Johnny, for God's sake. I cannot." So typical of that time. Sisters Burns and Broadbooks are writing a book about their grandfather's experience.
When we're trying to write a book about it, it's filling in those gaps. It's fun, but it's really, you feel so obliged to tell the story in a truthful way, but you don't have all the facts.
Kay Harris of Richland Hills, Texas, comes here because of her orphan train riding father.
No, I just love coming here. Makes me feel closer to my father. I love to see the artifacts that they have. I've never gotten any clothing that he wore or any baby pictures.
The only photo of her father's youth, she says, was when he was 18, when her father was going into military service for World War I. She says her father, Leo Mullen, was adopted into a great family in Dinsmore, Kansas, in Norton County.
He came from New York. He was born in Manhattan, taken to the New York foundling home when he was 10 days old, and his mother left him there.
For decades, folks in Concordia were told that the orphan trains never even came here. But they found out in recent years that's not the case.
We didn't believe that we had gotten orphan trains here. We had no knowledge of any.
In recent years, they discovered that 3 orphan trains had stopped here.
For example, when Concordia got its 3 orphan trains, the people around here knew that a train was coming. It was advertised in the paper. There would have been visits by the agent. There would be a local placing committee to help say, yes, that would be a good family to take a child, or to say, nah, I think maybe that guy's probably not gonna get a kid.
The orphan trains had critics then and now.
We have some people that come in here and they say, oh, it was nothing but child slavery, child slavery. It was not child slavery. Every child had to work back then.
Some child placements didn't work out, and attempts were made to place those children in other homes. So from 1854 to 1929, more than 200,000 children were relocated on orphan trains, each child with a story, and each family that took them in with one of their own. It's in search of those stories that orphan train descendants return to this celebration in Concordia year after year. This is Chris Frank reporting for Positively Kansas.
The need for permanent homes for children continues today. Right now, right here in Kansas, there are nearly 6,000 children in the foster care system in need of a forever family. Now for a walk on the wild side. We take you to Cheyenne Bottoms wildlife area near Great Bend. In this week's Kansas Wild Edge Report, Mike Blair shows us why it's considered one of the top destinations for birds and bird watchers.
You wouldn't expect it from a sea of grass. No, not to harbor an ocean of water. It's a paradox. More than 60 square miles of perpetual wetlands in America's heartland prairie. But it's a place well known to winged travelers who course the ancient skyways between summer and winter homes. It's a great oasis that calls them down to feed and rest. And it's a treasure of Kansas. Cheyenne Bottoms, famed through history as a wondrous resource, wildlife haven, and hunting ground, is first and foremost a natural harbor of interior migrants. And it's not just ducks and geese. As many as 45% of North America's shorebirds stop here in spring migration. At least 350 of the 475 bird species reported in Kansas have been seen in this premier basin. Perching birds, wading birds, seabirds, aerialists, waterfowl, raptors. All these and others offer spectacular viewing opportunities during seasonal flights. Cheyenne Bottoms holds designations as a wetlands of international importance, a Western Hemispheric shorebird reserve site, and a globally important bird area by various bird conservation groups. And birders from across the continent and world visit to witness its annual bird movements. Up to 90,000 users visit the wildlife area each year, and it is one of Kansas's most important public use areas. Visit for yourself. I'm Mike Blair for Positively Kansas.
Next week, Mike shows us what happens to wildlife when a Kansas river is drawn down to repair a nearby lake. If you're old enough to remember, or you like to watch old TV shows from the 50s and 60s, you know that bridge was a popular game during that period. Couples would enjoy cocktails and hors d'oeuvres as they squared off for an evening of congenial and spirited competition. Well, now the game is being rediscovered by Kansans who find a lot of benefits in playing. Anthony Powell has their story.
Another busy day at the Wichita Bridge Club, where several times a week, players try their hands at a variety of bridge games. It's a welcome sight. Many here thought they might never experience face-to-face playing after COVID.
We had kind of an emergency meeting of board members, and I'm a board member, and we voted to close. Of course, we were assuming it might be 2 to 4 weeks maximum.
Beck says the center was closed for nearly a year and a half. During that time, many players played online bridge. But the club also lost several members to the virus, and it's been somewhat tough to get people to come back and play in person. But the numbers are steadily growing, not only because folks missed the game, but more so because they missed each other.
People missed that socialization, the face-to-face caring that goes on.
And socialization is a big reason bridge has been played in Wichita and around America for over 100 years. It was so popular in the 50s and 60s, there was even a TV show devoted to it.
And here we go again with Championship Bridge.
And it's not just everyday folk who have and continue playing bridge. Celebrities like Bill Gates and Martina Navratilova are also fans. Meanwhile, back at the Wichita Bridge Club, we spoke to one of its longtime members, David Copper.
I started playing in college when I went to KU in '65.
10 years later, Copper joined the Wichita Bridge Club.
When I started in '75, there might have been nationally maybe 250 to 300,000 players. Now we're down to 100. Part of it is people found other things to do, and young people don't go to this game anymore. You know, they play video games or something else.
A big reason for that, of course, is due to technology. But perhaps another reason is that bridge is hard to learn.
The thing that I think it is that you are working on combinations, patterns, always needing to add the memory of how many cards have been played in a suit, and every hand differs.
As we've already mentioned, bridge is very, very complex. So much so that Mary Beck teaches an 8-week course about the game at WSU. It's an 8-week adult continuing education class, a perfect fit for Beck, who is a retired Newton High teacher. But before she could teach the game, Beck says she had to do some brushing up herself, so she joined the Wichita Bridge Club.
I had played, but didn't understand it really. My parents played it, my grandmother played it. I just kind of knew the basics.
I started playing originally in about 1970, 69, 70.
Richard Vore is a newer Wichita Bridge Club member. It had been many years since he had played when he joined the club, and says he was a bit rusty at first.
I did try to come here and play, and I was lost when it came to the bidding systems.
So you said to yourself, I better take Mary's class.
Yes.
Vore says taking Mary Beck's class has made all the difference, and he's loving playing the game he learned more than 50 years ago. A game that he says has provided a big boost to his daily life.
The challenge and the associations with other people. I need to keep from being bored, and I need something that'll challenge me a little, and I need to interact with people.
And that's exactly the kind of sentiment it's hoped will grow the membership here. While club members know it's mostly the older generation that will be attracted to bridge, they invite younger people to see how much fun and engaging non-technological games can be. For Positively Kansas, I'm Anthony Powell.
Well, that's a wrap for this week. Now that federal funding has been taken away and our PBS Kansas budget dramatically cut, we need to decide which programs to keep and which ones to cancel. If you'd like to see Positively Kansas remain on the air, you can go to kpts.org and make a $100 donation to help keep this show funded. I actually host it for free. As a thank you, your name will appear in the closing credits each week as a valued supporter. I'm Sierra Scott. Thank you again for watching. See you next time.